Storm Scans, a stunning new report shows billions of your tax dollars that were supposed to go to aid for Hurricane Katrina victims instead supported such necessities as trips to strip clubs, trips to Hawaii, and X-rated videos. That's right, friends. The government now says more than $1 billion sent to Hurricane Katrina victims instead was funneled to fraudulent activities. And you know what? I was in Congress. I saw this stuff happen all the time, and I know that chances are good this scandal is only going to get worse. Right now, though, let's go to NBC's Chip Reed with some of the outrageous examples of Katrina con jobs. Chip.
Well, Joe, this is amazing stuff. The Government Accountability Office issued this new report, and they say there are literally thousands of examples, all adding up to about $1 billion of people ripping off FEMA, scam artists, basically. Here's one of my favorites. Someone checked into a hotel in Honolulu, just a couple of blocks from Waikiki Beach, and I just got married there, so I can tell you it is one of the great paradises in the world. This person stayed for 10 weeks. I would have too, if I could have. And they then billed FEMA for the $8,000 hotel bill, which sounds wild and crazy, especially when you find out that the person did not even live in New Orleans or anywhere in the hurricane zone when Katrina hit. This person lived in North Carolina. And on top of that, this person was so bold, he or she, we don't know the person's identity, then applied for rental assistance. And FEMA didn't check to see that they were already paying the hotel bill and gave another $3,258 in rental assistance. Somebody else applied 13 times for assistance using 13 bogus Social Security numbers and 13 bogus addresses and received multiple payments totaling $139,000. And everybody's favorite is what people use these debit cards for. Now, in FEMA's defense, they gave these $2,000 debit cards to people, and it was up to them to use them within the law. And most people, the GAO says, did use them for necessities, food, clothing, shelter, things of that nature. But here are some examples of what other people apparently thought were necessities that they used these debit cards for. $2,200 for an all-inclusive one-week Caribbean vacation, 5 New Orleans Saints football season tickets for $2,000, divorce lawyer services, $1,000, a gentleman's club in Houston, $600, adult erotica products at the Pleasure Zone in Houston, $400, and a $200 bottle of Dom Perignon champagne at a Hooters in San Antonio. And last but not least, I've got to mention this one, $300 for a stack of Girls Gone Wild videos. So obviously one man's necessities are another person's illegal expenditure. FEMA claims they are cracking down on this. They say they've got 1,500 examples of fraud that they've already referred for criminal prosecution. But I'll tell you, a lot of members of Congress think they have still not fixed the system, and we're going to get more of the same in this hurricane season. Joe?
Hey, Chip, you're exactly right. That's exactly what I was saying. I think we're going to, unfortunately, when the federal government gets involved, there is waste, fraud, and abuse at every level. So the question is, how big of a mess is FEMA? And especially with these con jobs, let's bring in Steve Ellis from Taxpayers for Common Sense. Steve, you're obviously part of a watchdog organization, and when it comes to government waste, talk about $1 billion in fraud and the expenditures that we saw, strip clubs, Hooters, all these other things. Were you stunned by what you saw in this GAO report?
Well, I've certainly seen a lot of waste over the years, but I have to say that when I look at this, I couldn't even make this stuff up. It's so beyond the pale. It's so ridiculous. The Dom Perignon, the Hooters, and then even the fact that inmates, prison inmates, 1,000 prison inmates applied for rental assistance. I think that we're already picking up the tab for their lodging.
And how do you Steve, how does the federal government spend $6,000, write a $6,000 check or an $8,000 check to a guy that's vacationing in Hawaii who's from North Carolina?
Well, it just means that they didn't really care when they were shoveling the cash out the door. It seems that the officials at FEMA were more concerned about spending the taxpayers' money than actually helping the real people that were affected by Katrina. And that's one of the saddest things about this, is that we all saw the images down there. We know that there were some real needs, but both people were exploiting the system, and FEMA was more than willing and aiding and abetting that exploitation.
And you know, Steve, I was in Mississippi a few weeks back, looked at the condition of Biloxi and surrounding areas in Mississippi. People still stuck in FEMA trailers. The infrastructure is still ravaged. There's so much that the federal government could be doing down there, as well, of course, as the state and local government. But unfortunately, right now, we're having the President and Congress debating stripping money out of additional assistance because they say the budget just won't afford it. We just can't afford it. And yet again, here you have over $1 billion just completely wasted. So what's the answer?
Well, I think the answer is to really make FEMA be more accountable. I mean, there were simple answers to some of these issues as far as where people were claiming that their home address was a cemetery. I mean, that's something that's just a simple data check. Or, for instance, Chip Reed just mentioned about how somebody made up 13 Social Security numbers to get claims. I mean, that's simply FEMA not doing their job in verifying that information. And this is just on the aid to donors, or to people who are affected by Katrina. There's also been, FEMA's been rife with waste in their contracts as well.
It is absolutely unbelievable. Steve Ellis, thanks so much. I guess I should say it's unbelievable unless you've spent a little bit of time in Washington, D.C., and then you understand the way politics works, and you're exactly right. They got to a point where they were shoveling money out to these people who were asking for help because after the storm, there was a lot of flack about FEMA not doing their job on the front end. And, of course, friends, when I was in Mississippi, FEMA wasn't able to get food, water, ice, medicine, other necessities into the zones hit hardest in Mississippi and Louisiana. And yet we find out now, 9-10 months later, they ended up shoveling $1.5 billion on all these con jobs. It's just absolutely disgusting.